Hey y'all. So today I want to talk about a really fascinating topic. For me, it's inner child work. Now don't roll your eyes. I know inner child work sounds really hippy dippy, but it's really, really powerful work. Think about any of y'all who watch RuPaul's Drag Race. There's always a time in almost every episode that RuPaul pulls up a picture of one of the drag queens as a little boy and says, what would you say to little Joshua? And instantly the drag queen starts crying because that is a really vulnerable part of us. Talking to that child who often experienced bullying and shame and not being accepted, maybe from friends or family. And so inner child work is a great way to connect deeper to ourselves. I know I did a lot of inner child work when I was in Peru, learning how to deal with my anger. I have a lot of anger issues, and a lot of that is about politics, current politics, and without getting into it. And what I learned is that a lot of politicians these days are bullies. And that triggers me because my inner child, when I was growing up, I was bullied a lot, constantly. And so when I hear people praising this politician or these politicians, I get really angry because I feel like I'm being bullied again. And that's my inner child coming out. And what's really important to learn is to learn how to take care of that inner child and tell them that it's okay, so that when someone comes to me talking about how wonderful a politician is that I think is a bully, instead of screaming and yelling, because that's what a little child does, I can come at it from adult cater instead of young cater, and I can address it in whatever way I choose, in a much more mature fashion of saying, I don't agree with you, or I'm going to step away, whatever that is. So I hope that really helps you understand a little bit about inner child, healing your inner child. Today, I had a really amazing experience. I had to do some work in a course I'm taking with Gabor Mate. He is an addiction and trauma specialist. And we each had to bring a picture of ourselves. And I brought a picture of me at maybe 2 years old with my mom. And when I was asked to talk about this picture, they said, who do you see? And I said, I see a child who is full of joy and who's so safe. And I really realized that that child at that age had not been bullied, had a wonderful family, full of love, full of support. It wasn't until later that, when I was 6, 7, 8, that the bullying started. And never in my home, never with my family, but at school. And then out in public, at the mall, I would be called the F word because I had effeminate attributions, whatever. And it was really fascinating to me to learn that there's different parts of our inner child. Maybe parts of your inner child feel safe, while other parts of your inner child don't. And while this is a really complex topic, I think it's one of the few things that I think really needs to be done with a coach or with a therapist. It's really hard to do this inner child work alone. There's all sorts of tools I can teach you as a coach to do things on your own, but this kind of work really needs to be done with someone else to really help guide you. But one thing you can do on your own, and if you want to start out, is writing a letter to your inner child. So if you can imagine your younger self at a certain age and really be specific. Like I remember when I was, I think I was 10 years old, I had these rainbow suspenders. I loved Mork and Mindy. I loved Punky Brewster. I had a hat with a propeller on it. I had leopard printed shoes. Girl, I was like on a bender trying to be as funky and fun as possible. And I got made fun of it all the time. But I remember how those clothes brought me so much joy. And I wrote a letter to that my nickname was Sonny growing up. I wrote a letter to that little boy, Sonny, at that age saying, bravo for you for wearing these clothes that bring you so much joy, even though you get made fun of because you are being authentic, and that it will get better. And you will end up becoming a fashion writer, writing pieces for the New York Times. So it does get better. Things will change. But for now, having an understanding about where you are and knowing what's going to happen. It's a really beautiful experience, just writing that letter to that inner child. And things will come up that you may not realize. And that's okay too. That's important. You can well up with tears. You can maybe have some laughter. But it can often be pretty intense. So if you're going to do something like this, it's not something you do between meetings. It's not something you do and rush out to dinner. This is something you should really set aside some time on the weekend and work on. And think of what age, what they're wearing, what they were doing, and connecting with that inner child and seeing, really remembering what they felt. Because while I also remember feeling such joy in these clothes, I remember feeling such shame, and that why was I always getting made fun of, that I was so different, that I'm not good enough. When I would fail a test, I felt like I was terrible because, yet again, I'm not good enough. When I wasn't picked for a soccer team because I wasn't athletic, I wasn't good enough. And letting that sink in with that inner child. Because guess what? All of that is happening to you right now. That feeling of less than is happening when a boss tells you you're not doing good enough, or some friends go out to dinner and don't invite you, or you get broken up with, someone dumps you, you don't feel good enough. It's that constant reminder. And so when we do this work with our inner child, we can remember that that is from where that trauma comes from, and that we are good enough, and that we are loved. It makes me emotional because it's been such a big part of my journey to learn that I am enough, and that it's not about all those bullies. It's not about these politicians telling me I'm less than and voting against my rights. I am enough. I am loved. I'm loved most importantly by me. And so this inner child work can be so important. So I know that's a lot that I brought in this 6 minutes and 30 seconds. But if this is something that interests you, I'm here to help. But if you want to do something on your own, start off by writing that letter. Thinking of that inner child, finding some pictures. It was interesting to me how many people on this call today didn't have pictures of themselves when they were children. Finding those pictures. And if you don't, imagining, remembering who you were. Maybe even drawing a picture of yourself. What do you remember? What do you remember wearing? And talking to that little child and seeing what comes up. Because I guarantee you it's powerful. And I guarantee you, which is what I talk about with so many of my clients, what happened then is affecting you right now. So let's take care of that. Let's process some of that trauma so we can move forward. Thanks, guys.